Welcome to Adventures in Gelatin. Today we're going to make several kinds of gelatin treats, beginning with a fresh fruit juice gelatin mold. So you start with either all fresh fruit juice, or you can use concentrate and half water. Don't use acidic juice like pineapple or orange. So we start with 1 cup of the liquid, and you want to dissolve it into some gelatin. We have 1 ounce package of gelatin to what is eventually going to be 2 cups of liquid. And you want to cook it in the hot water until the gelatin crystals are clear. In the meantime, after you've added it to the second half of your cooled liquid, you can be getting your vegetables or fruits ready to put in the gelatin. This one we're going to do 3 different colors, so we're going to tip the mold and pour it into the mold and then gel it until it's firm, and then we're going to add the other colors of juice in the same manner. So we're going to put some blueberries and raspberries and grapes and strawberries. Once it's in the refrigerator for about an hour or half hour, it depends, watch it and see how good it gels. You can stick the fruit in there and it'll be suspended. You can do different layers. This one has a raspberry on the bottom and white grape juice on the top. So we're going to do different colors. The second layer of gelatin is added after it's firmed up in the fridge for about a half hour or so. And then you want to cover the fruit completely with your gelatin liquid. Chill until set then, about 3 or 4 hours before you unmold it. This gelatin we're going to make with vegetable juices. So we have a wheatgrass juice and we have a carrot juice. It's going to be some pretty colors. Nice dish for hot weather, summer brunch. So then we have carrot juice for the second layer, and we're going to add some shredded carrots for crunch, and then some cream cheese, celery, and walnuts. And that makes a lovely gelatin mold. Pretty colors. To unmold the gelatin, you put it over some high heat until you see it jiggle from the sides. So you know it's going to be loosened up from the mold, but not too melted. That's the trick. Then you take the platter that you're going to serve it onto, put it on top, flip it over, and there's your gelatin mold. Lovely. Fresh fruit. Very refreshing and delicious. This is our United States of gelatin for a 4th of July picnic. 3 different colors of juice. Watch out for the earthquake. Now we're going to make some homemade marshmallow. We start with blooming the gelatin, which is different than dissolving it. And this is going to go in a smaller amount of water this time. It's a very specific recipe. 2 packages of gelatin to 1/3 cup of hot water. And we're not cooking it over the stove this time, we're just adding it to hot water. Stir it right away because it's going to start thickening up and making this paste, and eventually it's going to bloom into this gelatin mass that you see there. Then we're going to add it to a simple syrup that we have on the stove made of 1/4 cup light corn syrup, 1 1/4 cups of sugar, and 1/3 cup of water. So you'll see the gelatin in there. You want to mix it up till it's all smooth and it's cloudy. Eventually it will run clear as the gelatin dissolves. That's a nice example of gelatin crystals, and here's the dissolved gelatin. Nice and clear. Then you'll want to cook it to 240 degrees over a medium heat. Crack a couple of eggs, save the yolks for something else, and we want to have 2 egg whites for our marshmallow. Put it in your mixing machine with a wire whip, and you want to whip it until it's foamy. You don't want it to start to make meringue yet. You want it, and so you whip it until it's fairly soft, and then you start adding your sugar syrup while it's whipping. You want to not get it too much on the whip or it'll fling it all over the place. So you want to try to keep it away from the whip while you're pouring. Mix it while you're pouring. And then you want to incorporate all of that and whip it really, really good for about 7 more minutes. until it's very, very thick, and at that time you add your flavoring. We can add vanilla, coffee powder, cocoa, almond, maple, raspberry, lemon, orange. It's just limited by your imagination. This one's having some espresso powder. We're going to dip those in chocolate. If you use a raspberry, you might want to identify it with a little pink color. People tend to like seeing what they taste, so that helps identify the flavor of the marshmallow. Plus it's a lovely little pastel pink color. Once it's incorporated with your flavor, you can feed it into your pastry bag. You grab a hold of it with your hand and scoop it right off the spoon. It's just like feeding a baby. Here we go. Open wide. You have the pastry bag folded around your hand. Here's an example of making marshmallow rosettes. You want to use parchment paper or wax paper. They're very sticky, kind of hard to get off. So don't be alarmed when you really have to work at getting them off. You have to use a very smooth utensil. I'm going to sprinkle the pink ones with the little red jimmies so that it makes them look pretty, and then the rum flavored ones are going to get some coconut. Makes a nice tropical flavored treat. So after various sprinkles, you just leave them set for a few hours and your marshmallows are ready to eat. You can cover them in a container for a few days. They don't keep real long. This is an example of traditional marshmallow where you line a pan with some parchment paper or wax paper, and then you're going to spread the marshmallow out very, very evenly. And eventually it'll be cut into squares. It's very, very sticky and hard to work with. So keep your paper down. It helps if you tape the paper onto the pan. So smooth it out because that's the shape it's going to be when it sets. Then you have to really work at getting it off that paper. Make sure there's powdered sugar, otherwise it's going to stick to everything. And also powder sugar your cutting utensil as well. Make sure there's lots and lots of powdered sugar on that, otherwise you're going to be frustrated with how sticky this is. So we're going to cut it into strips, and then the strips get cut into squares as wide as they are long. Now these can be wrapped in caramel and then dipped in chocolate. That's kind of a nice treat. They can be dipped in chocolate, or you can just eat them plain. Very tasty and light, and they just melt in your mouth. This is how you dip it in chocolate. You have to temper the chocolate first, or it will develop white streaks called blooming. Use your dipping fork and try to keep it as neat as possible. You don't want to touch it too much. Get the drips. And try to place it gently and delicately on the parchment paper or wax paper. When you chocolate coat things, you want to make sure when you get it out of the chocolate to not really touch the top of it. You want to keep that nice sheen on top, nice and smooth, unless you're identifying it with a swirl or something like that. But I like to see that nice smooth sheen, so you don't want to touch the top. And there you have a nice chocolate dip marshmallow. These are lovely, and they're very tasty and delicious. So you should make those marshmallows. People will love you for this. There we go, Adventures in Gelatin. I'll see you next time. Basic Baking 101 is brought to you by Cheryl's Catering Cakes and Video Production. For cooking questions or questions about catering, cakes, or video production, email CherylCakeForYou@yahoo.com.